Hey everyone, I'm Amanda with Sweet Pieces, and we're going to talk about dark wax and black wax today. So this is a product that you can use to create an aged or an antique type of an effect on top of your paint. So these are boards that we have here in the store, and of course we're open 7 days a week in Huntington, 6 days in Massapequa. You can come and visit us anytime. We also have all of these boards on our website under each individual color, so you can take a look at them. But basically, this is your color. Pure white is the color. And then adding the dark wax and the black wax on top of these colors can give you all kinds of different effects. So depending on if you're using a light color or a mid-tone color or even a dark color, it's going to completely change the way that your paint looks. So how do we use these products? Well, I always say there's really no rules to this kind of DIY, decorative painting, chalk paint world. However, there are some guidelines, some important things that you need to remember. So let's talk a little bit about those. Whenever you're using Annie's dark wax or black wax, you have to use clear wax first. And that's really important. There is one exception to the rule. If you're working with a really dark color and you want your finish to be really dark, you can go straight with dark wax or black wax on, say, graphite, which is going to be like this kind of a color. It's Annie's closest color to black. It's a really, really dark charcoal gray. The olive would probably be okay. Napoleonic blue, those really dark colors, you could potentially go straight to dark wax. But if you want to be successful and have a finish that has a nice dark wax or black wax finish to it, you need to use that clear wax first. So let me explain something to you also that's important to understand about your dark wax and your black wax. Dark wax and black wax are not meant to create an overall consistent kind of an effect. Dark wax and black wax are meant to create an aged effect. So it's going to have movement, it's going to have texture, it's going to pick up on any grooves and crevices that might be in there. It's also going to pick up any texture that might be in the paint. So you want to kind of keep that in mind. If you have a really flat surface that has no detail whatsoever and you've painted it really smoothly, that's going to be slightly more challenging to create a consistent dark wax or black wax look. You can do it, but it's going to be a little bit tougher. I think that dark wax, black wax is really meant to have like that very cool movement and texture to it. It's meant to have, you know, highs and lows, darker spots, lighter spots. So let's talk about how we're going to do this. So we have a video on how to do clear wax. So if you want to refer back to that and take a peek at that. But basically the way that you're going to apply clear wax is you're going to put a little bit on your brush. So wax is like the consistency of shortening, Annie's wax anyway, which is the very best, as we all know. You're going to dip it in and you're going to get a little bit on your brush. So I don't have a whole ton on there, you know, it's just a little bit. So now I'm going to, we've painted this box. This is Paris gray, and I don't know if you can see this, but there is some like detail on there. So I'm going to start painting this on. Now can you see how it almost makes it look like it's wet? That is the wax going on there. So up here, you can see this is very solid. Here, it's more see-through. Can you see that on? Great. So there is not a full application of clear wax on this area. So you need to make sure that this is nice and well covered with clear wax before you go to that dark wax. If you don't, then you're going to get a more streaky dark wax or black wax finish. And then that's when we get our phone calls. That's when all of us stockists get those phone calls. So I'm just working in sections here, and I'm basically going to just do this one side. And this is how I would tell you to do your pieces. You're going to work in small, manageable sections. You're not going to do, you know, the whole entire top of a dresser at once. You're going to do it in sections. Okay, so now I've put my clear wax on. I'm using Annie's paintbrush to do so. Annie also has some really fantastic wax brushes, which we love, 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 love. But you can also use your regular paint brushes to wax as well. So I've applied my clear wax. I'm now going to go ahead and apply dark wax. Now, you see I'm picking up a different brush because I'm working in sections. I'm going to go clear wax first, dark wax. I'm going to go back to my clear wax brush. I can't use the same brush again to dip back into my clear, or else I'm going to contaminate. So you do need 2 brushes. So now I'm going to dip into my dark wax. I'm going to get, you know, a little bit on there. Again, a little bit goes a long way, so you really don't need that much. And I'm going to, now you see I haven't even wiped this back. I like to do it this way. I'm just going to go ahead and rub this over. Do you see how it's now highlighting this detail that's here? It's always easy to add more wax. It's a little bit tougher to take it away when you put so much on there. You know, and you can go heavier with this if you want to. I'm just, you know, trying to give this an aged effect. I want to highlight, when we painted this, we used a lot of texture. So I want to highlight that texture in there as well. And now I'm going to go ahead and wipe. Now we carry 2 different types of wax rags here. This is like a reusable wax rag, which you can, you know, wash it in the sink with hot soapy water when you're done with it. And then we also have the shop towels, which they're kind of throwaway. So, you know, especially when you're doing a dark wax job, you might want to have the throwaway ones because you do kind of go through so much of it. So now I'm going to take my rag and I'm just going to kind of rub. Now, this should not be back-breaking work. This should be like you're polishing silver, okay? You're just kind of rubbing it. You're almost compressing that wax, pushing it into the surface, and buffing it out, okay? I'm going to show you my rag. There's not a whole ton of excess dark wax on here. You know, depending on the look you're going for, if you want this really, really heavy, you could add a lot more wax, but you're going to be, you know, taking off a lot. So as you kind of work, you want to flip your rag, okay, and get a nice clean section. But I don't know if you can tell on camera, but this is buffing up really nicely. It's getting a nice shine to it. And I'm hardly even doing anything. Now, when you feel this, it should feel smooth. It shouldn't feel sticky, goopy, gloppy. It should feel nice and smooth. And you can see now, this dark wax has caught into this little design that was on here. We also were very textured with our paint, which is really what you want when you're doing any kind of a dark wax or a black wax finish. You want to have texture. You want that to be highlighted. So we painted it very, just like Annie paints, you know, very textured like that. So that's that. It's so simple and easy. When you're working on a bigger piece, you're just going to work section to section. Now, the thing to remember is wax reactivates wax. So people say, well, how am I going to do like a really big piece of furniture, like say the top of a dresser or something, and aren't I going to see overlap marks? Well, the key is you want to just kind of blend it together. You know, it's never going to look, like I said, it's not going to be perfectly consistent. That's more of like a glaze or a wash kind of an effect, which we do have a couple videos on those too on the YouTube channel. But dark wax is meant to give you that vintagey look. It's meant to catch in the grooves and crevices, highlight that texture. But the key is you just want to kind of softly blend those two together. You know, I see people doing a lot of this with their waxing. They're really kind of rubbing it, and that's really not how you should be waxing. Like, it really shouldn't be like a super hard process. You know, you should kind of just be like laying it on and smoothing out, and then when you're removing it, it should kind of almost be like a polishing, you know, motion. It's not like you're rubbing everything off. You're just kind of polishing it into the surface. If you haven't applied too much, you shouldn't have to remove too much. So really, whatever you apply, really just kind of get it spread out into an area. That's important to remember about waxing. So now let's jump over and I'm going to show you some black wax. It's exactly the same concept. So we'll review here. So we're going to apply our clear wax. And you can see, again, these are areas that don't have wax on them. Those lighter areas don't have wax. And you can use that tip for just when you're regular clear waxing too, because we get those calls as well. Well, I waxed, but there's some areas they look different. They look duller or they don't look right. I always say either you have too much wax on there or maybe there's not enough wax at all. Maybe you haven't put on enough to get full coverage. You know, sometimes, especially with the clear, it's hard to see it. Paris gray is actually a great color. You can see it really easily, but sometimes on like the whites, it's a little bit harder. So we do like to tell people, you know, put on at least 2 coats. You know, 2 passes will almost ensure that you do have enough wax on there. Okay, so we got our clear wax on, and now we're gonna go ahead and put our black wax. This is another wax brush that we carry. This is not an Annie Sloan brush. Still a great quality brush, but not quite as high quality as Annie's. We always say here that Annie's brushes are like, you know, getting a Gucci or a Prada. And, you know, sometimes another brand is wonderful as well, but just not quite as wonderful. So, again, I've dipped my brush into the black wax. I'm going to kind of rub it onto the surface. I'm going to go a little bit at a time, just adding a little bit as I go, getting it all spread out into this one area. And then once I have it on there and I feel like it's good, then I can go ahead and remove the excess with my rag. I'll use a shop towel this time just to show you guys. This is a brand new roll. So this first one is always a little bugger to get off. Okay, so I have my rag. I usually just fold it into quarters. And then I'm just going to go ahead and do the same exact thing that I did for my dark wax. And I'm just going to kind of rub. Now let me show you something. If I rub really hard over here, I can really start to remove that black wax. And if I do this and I'm inconsistent with it, and see how I'm rubbing and it's like making these marks, that can drive you kind of crazy. And you're like, why isn't this working? That's why it's important to not be so hard on this. You know, you want to kind of get it right with your brush, and then you're using your rag almost to like polish it and kind of push it into the surface, and that will make it much more consistent, or like, you know, unevenly even is a good term. So now let's say you did this, right? And you have a little spot and you don't really know what to do. How do we fix that? Well, again, wax reactivates wax. So anytime now you take a colored wax and you go over this, it's almost gonna, sometimes we call it burning a hole in the finish. It's almost going to like reactivate all that wax underneath it and remove it. So what I like to do is kind of go across and like an area that I'm working on. So now that's back to kind of looking like it did before I rubbed it really hard. And I'm just going to do the same exact thing. I'm rubbing, but I'm really almost polishing this. So that's really it. Now let's say, for instance, that you feel like this is too dark. Maybe you put on too much dark wax or too much black wax and you got a little too heavy-handed with it. Well, how do we remove it? Well, wax reactivates wax. So I can now use clear wax to remove some of this black wax if I feel like it's too much. So now I'm going to take my clear wax brush. Now keep in mind, when you do this, your clear wax brush is going to get some of the colored wax on it. So you have to kind of be ready to maybe either have a third brush on hand, or maybe you're almost done with this and you're not mixing it back into your can, or you may want to just scoop out a little bit of the clear wax and put it on a plate so that that doesn't contaminate, so it doesn't get the black wax in it. So let's see, I guess I'll start right here. You just put a little bit of clear wax on, and then you can, you know, kind of fold your rag, unfold it, get like a clean side. and I can start removing. See how that's come off nicely? So again, it just depends on how much you want to do. Do you want to, I'm breaking my own rules here. I'm dipping back in. But now do you see, I don't know if you can see that, there's some black wax in there. We go through our wax so fast, so it's really not a big issue for us. But for you at home, spending the dough on it, you want to save what you got. You could do this all over. You could just do like a light coat all over. And then rub it down. And you can see here, this is taking it up. It's lightening it up a bit. The key is whenever you're waxing that you never want to leave your project feeling really greasy and goopy. That's when you're going to have trouble with your wax finish. If you just take this and you kind of wipe it back and you get it to a point where when you run your hand across it, it's smooth, your rag is gliding smoothly across it, then you're a-okay. You'll be good to go. So that is a quick demo on how to do black wax and dark wax. I'm noticing here this side looks consistent, this side is still a little bit darker, so you could again just go over this with a little bit more clear, wipe off the excess. I'll turn my rag again. And of course, all of these wonderful products that we're using here are available on our website, which you can shop 24/7, sweetpieces.com. Or if you're lucky enough to live near us, come visit us in Huntington or Massapequa. We're open 6 and 7 days a week. And if you're not close enough to us, please visit your local stockist as well. They have a wealth of information for you, just as we do here at Sweet Pieces. And we would love to meet you. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope this is like probably the thing that we get the most questions about is dark wax and black wax. As you can see, black wax is black. Dark wax is more of a brown type of an effect, more of a vintagey kind of a look. And then we also have white, which we'll have to do another video on that another day. White is a little bit different, On the white, you really can't tell the difference too much. Come and visit us. We can't wait to meet you, and we'll be putting out a few more videos. I only got a few more weeks to go here, so I gotta get some new info out there for you guys. We'll see you soon. Thanks so much.